Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Gateway from Tentacula. Gateway is a 2 to 4 player deck building experience with elements of area control as well as a whole bunch of other tableau building. There's a bunch of things going on in this game. Before I dive into this channel is sponsored by Allplay, more about them at the end of this video, and this is a prototype, all rules, components subject to change, and I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. I also should note that they did sponsor a gameplay on the channel. While this review is not sponsored, they did sponsor other content on the channel, so just take that into account as I give my opinion of this game. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into this. Gateway is a 2 to 4 player area control deck building, more deck building than area control. You're going to start with your starting deck of 10 cards. This deck over here is going to contain a variety of agents, as well as these 2 useless fish that will clog your deck until you get rid of them. The agents, on the other hand, you're going to have a hand of 5 cards every single turn. So you're going to draw a hand of 5 cards. You're not going to choose over there. You're just going to draw 5 cards, and those agents are going to determine the actions you take. You see, every agent leads actions of that currency type. We have merchants with gold, we have insurgents with power, and then we have wizards with archaea. Magic, might, and gold are going to be the 3 main currencies you have over here. Each of those currencies has different actions you take. So for example, I could start an action with my merchant over here to take a gold action. There are several gold actions you can take, but the most common one is going to be recruiting new characters into your deck. Characters have a gold cost, you're going to pay that gold cost, and that's going to go into your discard pile, and that's going to be the way you power up your deck by recruiting various merchants. That's the first action you can do with these. Additionally, the other action you can do is as you eventually bump these informants out, you're going to have various guards in play in the districts. And you can spend money to go ahead and bribe those guards, taking a token from the bribe bag. Those are the 2 main currency actions you can take with gold. Alternatively, if you're taking an action with power, you can do an action with power. Let's go ahead and grab our card over here. So you can lead an action with power using this resource over here. And you can spend that power to go ahead and defeat various enemies on this board over here, replacing them with another card from the corresponding deck. The other action you can take is you can shatter these runestones, paying to shatter those, gaining a one-time ability. And then lastly, you have magic over here, archaea, and you can use that to go ahead and buy those runestones. Alternatively, you can use that to recruit new agents because you're going to want these various tokens to use them for a variety of factors. There's a bunch of other things you can do over here. Each of the districts over here, you're going to have these various alleys where you're going to pay the matching currency. So again, either archaea, power, orca, or gold in order to put one of your agents into that district, unlocking the power of that district. Now, the way you take these actions is you're going to play a card. So for example, let's take one of our merchants over here. You play a card, and then if you want to buy an agent that costs 3, for example, this merchant over here, this racketeer, they cost 3. I have to power up that action by discarding other cards with matching power from their hand, activating the abilities on the cards as I go. That's going to be a total of 3. I can take that racketeer, and then I can put all those cards into my discard pile. Alternatively, you can also discard cards. So for example, with these are all only 1 power right now. Until I power up to more powerful cards around the board, these are going to be a little bit more limited, so I can simply discard these to take and matching tokens of the variety of types, and I can use those to augment further actions as I play through the game. So your basic sequence of play is you draw a hand of 5 cards. You play one of those cards to start a specific action matching that currency type. For example, if I'm sending a merchant, I can go ahead and use that to buy more cards. You power up that action with other cards from your hand or various tokens you have previously earned those for. That's going to allow you to pay for the costs. Along the way, you're going to be fighting various enemies in these districts, which eventually will result in monsters being in these districts, which will allow you to place agents into these areas over here once you take down those monsters. You also have various cards in each of these districts that will give you specific ways to achieve them. For example, in Crystal City, for every 2 runestones you have, you can craft one of these cards over here, adding it to your discard pile, which will clog your deck, but will give you points. Meanwhile, you're getting points from some of the agents you're recruiting. You're also getting points from some of the monsters you defeat or the various enemies you defeat over here. And you're also going to get points from the variety of runestones you acquire. Runestones are going to be this tableau building effect where they allow you to take these actions as you go, and as you power up your runestones, not only is the action more powerful, it's also going to be worth more points as you play. Meanwhile, at the end of the game, you're going to be resolving area control for each of these various alleys, as well as each of the main districts. In each district, you're going to count the number of agents you have here, as well as the card cards you have from that district, and whoever has the most will get 6 points. Meanwhile, in these alleys, same idea, whoever has the most agents in each of these alleys is going to earn 6 points as well. You're balancing all of these aspects as you try to build up your deck, as you try to acquire more runestones, as you try to acquire more agents to be able to utilize them for all the various effects you need, trying to be the person who has the most points at the end of a game of Gateway. With that, we're going to go ahead and dive into my review of what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like. There's a decent amount of tension in the decisions you make in this game. This is one of those things where you start off, you have a hand of cards, of course you want to power up your deck because powering up your deck is important. But there's so many small decisions at the very beginning of the game as far as which way you're going to pursue things. Are you going to try to acquire more runestones? Those can be incredibly powerful because those repeat their actions as they go. They're kind of guaranteed repetitive actions that you can slowly use, then reset as it works its way down, use it again. So getting a bunch of runestones early on can really help give you a lot of flexibility, as well as predictable flexibility. You know the timing of how those are going to activate. But on the other hand, getting more cards is important. You have all these one-cost cards in your deck, and those one-cost cards, those one-value cards, are not going to help you the same way as getting one of these racketeers early, bumping your cost. You're doubling the value of a card in your hand if you get that. As you get some of these over here, you can get 3s or 4s. That's going to really help give you flexibility, as well as abilities, as well as the sheer value, which is going to be important to take things down. On the other hand, do you want to start taking down these informants and bribing various guards and trying to get area control in these districts? Getting your agents out into these districts will give you ongoing abilities early on, controlling them, and getting their early is important because they get more expensive. Each one of these slowly ramp up in cost. So getting 2 gold over here stops the next person from being able to get here unless they spend 3, which at the beginning of the game is a big difference. It's a difference between recruiting a new person versus just having 2 gold in your hand. And so you're constantly choosing between these early game actions that will define the various things you can do. And one of the things this game has a scenario aspect to it, which is going to mix up the cards in play, the districts. You're going to mix up the various impacts. So for example, we have of wizards and fish. It's going to give you new ways to spend agents at the beginning of the game. These are one-time abilities you can spend your agents on. They can be incredibly powerful. Get them in early, you get a strong ability, but you use up your early free starting agent. And getting those agents in play, again, is a big deal because you need those. You need those to bribe guards. You need those to get control in these districts. You need them to go ahead and take, well, these actually got for free. When you take out a monster, they come from your inactive agents. But you need to balance all these needs you have with limited currency at the very beginning of the game, which provides a lot of tension in the game, a lot of tension to the decisions, a lot of weight to everything you're doing. The limited agent pool is one of my favorite things about the game because those agents are so important, and you really have to think through. It's not just about, okay, great, I have 2 agents in my pool. What do I do with those agents? Because as I spend them, I need to get more agents in play, and if I buy more agents, then I'm not buying those runestones, which again is a powerful part of your tableau. And so you're constantly trying to figure out where your currency goes in the game. Meanwhile, the districts are slowly escalating. The districts all escalate in value because you start off with these informants that are easy to beat. Those level up to level 1 cards. As you slowly get monsters in play, those level up to 2, then level 3 cards, and that's going to provide an escalating degree of districts that might be powering up at different speeds, allowing players to engage with them based on how their deck currently is, or forcing players to recruit into the cards that are allowed to take them out. Meanwhile, those runestone abilities are giving you, again, ongoing abilities as well as scenario-specific abilities that are all giving you something else to try to do. So there's lots of things happening that power up your deck, power up your tableau, all while the game powers up and gets more expensive, and as you try to figure out your pathway to victory amongst all of that. As far as things I don't like in the game, the biggest and main thing is going to be that this is a scenario-driven game, and this also is a prototype, which means that I have a limited pool of all the cards and all the scenarios and all the ways things will intermingle as you try to dive into it again. My biggest complaint currently is that the deck of cards, the pool of cards you have, they felt like there's mostly about the increasing value, and the abilities were okay, but it didn't feel like there's a significant degree of intricacy in the abilities of the deck you're building. So you have a limited pool of cards. There's 9 cards you can go ahead and recruit from. For the most part, it's about increasing power, not about how that card is interesting. Again, there are some interesting abilities. For example, over here, this the Defiant 5, that one's a really strong card to build a deck around. But a lot of these other cards, it's more about just getting increased value or even increased points, which means that from those 9 cards, maybe 2 or 3 of them were interesting, and the other 6 are just about getting better. And so because the cards are a big part of the game, and because the cards are a little bit more vanilla, at least in this current scenario I have, my biggest concern is that the current scenario gives me less replayability than I would like as far as the card element, which is one of the core elements of the game. And so I do want to see what further card decks are going to be like and how the intricacies of the scenarios are going to change as I dive into the full thing. Because currently, I like what this is, but if currently I like what it is, but I feel it does need more variability or interchangeability or interesting abilities on the cards to give this more depth. As far as I can see others not liking, claiming last place in a district locks anyone out from getting powers in that district, which means it's a weird aspect because districts at the end of the game give you area control points, but in-game it's whoever most recently went there. And so there's an interesting challenge where when you have the second last place available, if I go to the second last place, it allows the next player to go to the last place and permanently guarantee that spot, which it works out as far as the strategy of the game, but sometimes it can be, especially because of player timing, if you're playing a multiplayer game, meaning more than 2 players, especially then it results in this aspect of this weird timing of when John goes there, now Sarah's going to take it, and Sarah got the ability because John basically timed it out so that she can lock me out, and now I can't get that ability for the rest of the game. And so that district lockout is an interesting tension element of the game, but it might be a little frustrating to feel locked out, especially early game, based on especially the timing, the seating order, and how that can affect you. Even in a 2-player game it can be a factor, but at least there's like direct head-to-head. As soon as you're losing out based on other players' decisions, that's even less fun. Also, the monster fighting can kind of come up a little randomly and reward players in ways that feel based on the timing of the situation. Because when monsters enter play, if a monster enters play and I have the ability, the economy, to take out that monster and therefore get one of my agents in here as well as the points of the monster, when that happens, it's a little bit random as far as when a monster will come up, and if you happen to have the hand to deal with it right away, that does feel like one of those timing elements. It doesn't necessarily feel like I played a better hand or you played a better hand. It feels like the monster came up when you were able to defeat it, as opposed to a commonly and frequently available pool of cards. That's like when you talk about like these control cards from the various markets, from the various districts, those are always available, so it's a very different feeling. Versus the monsters, it really comes down to the timing of when you have what you need and when the monster comes out, and that could be a little less of a feel-good moment. As far as final thoughts on Gateway, overall, I enjoyed this game more than I thought I would. And it might sound a little negative, but I mean that I was reading through the rules in this, and it felt like a fairly standard deck-building game with not a ton of cards and an interesting area control element. And I guess reading the rules, it didn't necessarily feel like it would come together as well as it did. And it did come together very well. The main thing, and the only thing really holding this back for me, is that currently the cards do feel like possibly the weakest part as far as the interestingness of those cards. Everything smoothly works together in a way that was very satisfying. There's gameplay on the channel, you can check that out, but it does come together very nicely. It's just that the cards are a little on the vanilla side. I'm going to give this a tentative rating right now. Rating-wise, I'm going to come in at a 3.5 out of 5. I do think that will likely be higher based on the final game and the scenarios and the ways things intermingle, but I'm always a little wary to rate things based on the potential of where I think it could be, because that's not necessarily what I have in front of me. So I think this is going to be a 4 out of 5. Based on what I currently have, I'd be like, if this were the final game, if everything on the table was the final game, or we are 3.5 out of 5. This is sometimes the danger of reviewing prototypes when you don't have the full experience, and so I want to be as clear as possible. I think this is a 4 out of 5. It kind of depends on what the final game comes with. As far as other game recommendations, definitely check out Dominion if you want one of my favorite area control games that this definitely does seem to borrow various elements from. You have the fixed card market decks, you have the control cards, the victory point cards that go into your deck and clog things up but do give you those points. So it definitely seems to have some elements of Dominion while very much being its own beast. And then also check out A Study in Emerald. This kind of gave me the vibes of A Study Emerald. Very different experience, lots of other things happening in A Study of Emerald, but at least theme-wise and with some mechanical overlap, definitely check out that one if you're interested in what this is doing, and of course vice versa. And then I mentioned also that Allplay is a channel sponsor. If you go to allplay.com, you can check out a bunch of games from Allplay. They have a bunch of their own games, they have a bunch of partner games, and you can get everything bundled together for $4 flat rate shipping in the US. But check out Moitura. Moitura from Bitewing Games. It's a game that was a crowdfunding campaign, so it's not yet currently available, but you can check that one out if you're interested in a 2-player area control balance that gave me some similar vibes. Again, lots of different things happening, but as far as the control aspect of it, it definitely had the same feeling for me. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.